Pao is an employee at Silicon Valley-based tech venture since 2005 before she got terminated. She filed a lawsuit because she had been treated poorly by the senior officer, and the man who was promoted instead of her had the same profile and achievement as her. While she was an employee, she was harassed and been left out most of the time. She said that her opinion was taken lightly. They also exclude her from meetings. She was treated unfair just because she was a woman. The HR also not being so helpful, so she wrote a memo to her superiors and firm outside counsel, but eventually, because of the memo, she was later fired. It clearly looked like the firm are taking revenge on her for writing that memo, and that is why she filed a lawsuit against them on May 10, 2012. This issue happened because of the failure of the organization to educate their employee. Organizations should be responsible by providing knowledge and training to prevent this issue from happening. Failure to do so might cause the organization to lose a talented and a hardworking employee. It is necessary for organizations to educate their employee, providing knowledge about the gender bias on how gender bias look like. There is also a union for the employee. Employee can join a union and they could ask their union representative about the process and the collective bargaining agreement. Agreement might cover bias issue, and if so, it will help the employee who are abused because of their gender. However, education is first. Nothing will change if employees are not aware of this issue. Organizations should teach their employee and let them know how gender bias look like. Also, show them on how to avoid it and how to treat everyone nicely. Showing some example and going through exercise can help the employee to understand more. For example, the employee can go through scenario-based training. A good education can prepare the employee to deal with gender bias in the future.
The field of ethics can be said to involve systemizing, defending, and recommending concepts of right and wrong behavior. Philosophers usually divide ethical theories into three subject areas, which is meta-ethics, normative ethics, and applied ethics. Meta-ethics investigates where our ethical principles came from and what they mean. Normative ethics takes on a more practical task, which is to arrive at moral standards and regulate right and wrong conduct. Lastly, applied ethics is involved examining specific and often controversial life issues such as abortions, infanticide, animal rights, and environmental concerns. Ethics in the workplace is defined as the moral code that guides the behavior of employees with respect to what is right and wrong in regard to conduct and decision making. It is critical to understand that ethical workplace behavior can inspire positive employee behaviors that lead to organizational growth, just as unethical workplace behavior can inspire damaging headlines that lead to organizational demise. An organization that does not consistently combat unethical behaviors will always suffer, even if the wrongdoings in questions aren't considered to be major by most people's judgment. Unethical behaviors that goes unpenalized will undermines an organization's moral fabric, resulting in larger problems than the unethical issue in question.
At what point in this case study did Pao make the choice to voice her values? How did she voice her values in each of these instances? Pao made the choice to voice her value since she was discriminated by Cleaner Perkins on the basis of gender. This occurred when Perkins failed to promote her instead of promoting the man with similar profile and achievement in that position. This issue became more serious when the senior partner who assigned Pao and her worker to find solutions regarding how to improve the firm's treatment of women is non-committal during the task ongoing. So, Pao started to voice her values by wrote a formal memorandum towards some of her superior and the firm outside council. In Pao memorandum, she expressed harassment that her been faced and stating that she also been excluded from meetings that include male partners. Pao's memo specifies that she wanted to work with the firm on improving conditions for women. As a result, she been dismissed on 1st October 2012 from the firm, and the lawsuit went to trial in February 2015.
My name is Wan Zulaika binti Razali, and I will answer the question 2 and 6. Let's begin with the question 2. From my standpoint, I strongly believe Paul act on her value effectively. Why? Obviously, there are ethical issues in business not only regarding discrimination, but also sexual harassment, abusive behavior, and the conflict of interest. So even when the company doesn't want to hear the complaint from her, she continued to take a legal action against the company. Paul applied her normative ethic where she knows she must improve morally condition what is right or wrong for women. This also shows that she has a good ethic as a critical analysis of human act to determine their rightness or wrongness in terms of two major criteria, truth and justice. Even though she lost the lawsuit, she successfully showed the flaw of the company where it failed to give protection to social group which is the employees. So, the moment senior partner position and human resource department give non-committal responses, he already showed the sign of discrimination which are ethical problem. Plus, Paul win on her last claim proof that the company feel intimidating by fire her only because she want to stand her right as a woman and employee. According to Raymond Baumhart, the ethic of business is the ethic of responsibility. The businessman must promise that he will not harm knowingly. Ensure that the company are reasonably exclude an individual form of employment which lack of integrity and the quality in being impartial. I believe that Paul have do the right thing, have a good intention, and it is true that the gender discrimination happened to her, but unfortunately, due to the lack of the evidence, it cannot be proven.
GBV is known as giving voice to values. The 7 pillars of GBV is known as an innovative approach to values-driven leadership development in business education and also in the workplace. The goal of GBV is to act consistently with our most deeply held convictions about right and wrong. The 7 pillars of GBV are values, choice, normalizations, purpose, self-knowledge and alignment, voice, and reasons and rationalizations. According to the case study, we can identify the pillar of values in Pau's actions. Value is the hypernorms that are almost universally shared, such as honesty, respect, responsibility, fairness, and compassion. We can see Pau uphold to her values as a woman to be responsible to eliminate gender discriminations in the workplace. Pau believed that male and female deserves the equal opportunity to be a venture capitalist in the company. That fairness should have been applied to all regardless of their gender. And apart from that, choice is also one of the pillar of giving voice to values that we can identify in this case study. Choice is about voicing our values. We have a choice about voicing our values, and it is important to know what has helped and hindered in the past so we can work around those factors. And usually in most cases, a lot of people tend to choose to forget their values for the sake of protecting their friends, colleagues, or company. But Pau believed that she can make a genuine choice in voicing her values, so she can know what has enabled and disabled in the past, so that she can work on improving those factors. And in this case, Pau made a choice to take this issue of gender discriminations in her workplace a step further and wrote a formal memorandum to several of her superiors and the firm's outside counsel, in which she described the harassment she had received while at the firm. And next is the pillar of purpose. Purpose in this context means by defining the professional purpose explicitly and broadly before the conflict arises. By defining our purpose, we will have an easier time seeing value conflicts as an expected part of in facing people and with benefits and costs that do not occur out of the ordinary. Even before the social conflict arises, Pau and her co-worker has come up with ways to improve the treatment of women in the workplace, and she has also made a memorandum which describes the harassment that she received at the company while suggesting policies to prevent discriminations at the firm. And Pau also has mentioned in her statement that the purpose of this lawsuit is to fight for gender equality, where she believed that men and women should be given equal rights and opportunities. in the workplace, and it is important to make those opportunities available in the future. Lastly, the reasons and rationalizations is also the pillar that we can identify from Pao's actions. Reasons and rationalizations refer to the objections we hear from our colleagues when we try to point out an ethical problem in the way things are being done. When we encounter values conflicts in the workplace, we often face barriers that appear in the form of reasons and rationalizations for pursuing a particular course of actions. These obstacles can confound our best attempts to fulfill our own sense of organizational and personal purpose. So this giving voice to values pillar is about creating a time and space to be in the majority. In this case, we can see Pao trying to counter the arguments that she faced in the firm by creating a formal memorandum to her superiors on the discriminations that she faced at the workplace as a result of the objections she obtains from colleagues when pointing out the ethical problem. And in answering the other part of the questions, the pillars that I think Pao can engage more effectively is the self-knowledge and alignment pillar. Self-knowledge and alignment means to voice and act on your values in a way that is consistent with who you are and builds on your strengths. And self-assessment is an important way to identify our most effective strategies for enacting our values. I believe Pao can communicate her values and principles in a most presentable and convincing way to her peers by explaining to them directly after the conflict arises and explain to them on the gender discrimination issues in the workplace.
Based on my opinion, if I was in post position at Cleaner Perkins, I will try my best to get my right as workers in that firm. So, if you trust that you are in the right path, you must stick on your own decision and prove that you are right. This is because if you just give up without doing anything, it may lead to the employer doing the same things towards others too and keep it going. As we already know, discrimination among gender is a common issue that mostly occurred in the workplace. This issue may lead to the workers turn out to be demotivated and unstable emotional to do their job. Next, the pillars of GVV will influence my action, but I will believe in what I want to do to achieve the demands from organization itself. As we already know, giving voice to values, or known as GVV, was established for business ethics program, but been used broadly and applied to all professional fields, including workplace. GVV recognizes the various ways in which individuals can and do express their values in the workplace. So, by using this approach, it will boost my confidence to voice out all the opinions that relate to the issue. Lastly, the pillars that I choose to enact in a situation described in the case study is purpose. To fight the issue that occurred in the case study, I must recognize the purpose of the claim that will be made. Without knowing the purpose of the claim, it may lead to claim that will be made fail. So, to avoid this situation, we must be confident with the purpose that been chosen. After doing that, it will make it become easier to voice out the claim. For example, we can refer to Pao in this case study, where she listed down all the harassment that occurred in her workplace, and she also stated her main purpose of doing the report in the formal memorandum.
If I were a juror, I would have ruled in favor of Pao because based on the case study, Pao's actions in response to the treatment she receives at her workplace at least have fulfilled 3 of the pillars of the giving voice to values, which is values, choice, and purpose. This shows that Pao had identified some of the ways that she can do to voice out her values in the workplace, but it is still not enough. But then Cleaner Perkins decided to cut Pao's voice by terminating her employment with the company after several years. Moreover, as a person with values, I think that by bringing forward on the issue of the gender discriminations and sexual harassment in workplace is very crucial, as this issue has happened in many different companies, and it is important that we address the companies that enable the systems of patriarchy in the workplace, which in letting all men holding the primary power and dominating all the important roles in the company. And I stand by my beliefs as the same as Pao, that equal opportunities should be given to both men and women.
So let's proceed to our answer for question 6. Personally, I have similar experience with the foreign staff at my company commit sexual harassment on me. Generally, people always think that sexual harassment happen when someone touch other person without their consent, but sexual harassment also can be in terms of verbal or body language. In order to protect myself and use my right as a woman and a worker there, I told my supervisor, Miss X, regarding this matter. However, the response I got is disappointing, as my supervisor said, this is normal. It's also to happen to me too many times, so you must bear it, as we don't want to create more issue in our department. She also not allow me to report this matter to Human Resource Department, as she think it is my fault. So the response made me speechless, as my supervisor itself is a woman, and even though she know what the foreign worker do, she insists this matter should not be brought up, even though this is a huge ethical issue. Obviously, not only this is a sexual harassment, but also gender discrimination, because I can't stand for my right. What did I do? I take action personally by meeting up Human Resources Department and the foreign worker supervisor and tell them the situation. Luckily, the supervisor understand and immediately asked the worker to apologize, even though he seemed reluctant. However, I said to the foreign worker, I will lodge the police report against him, because I don't want the same thing happen to me to other women in the future. After that, I submit my resignation letter, because the whole company system is toxic environment, and it is not worth for me to work in corrupt company like that. So in retrospect, I wish I can bring the awareness to my supervisor to make policy and stand up and tall as a woman. Plus, I wish to file complaint against my supervisor for her useless responses, and she need to relearn to be more professional and have corporate ethics. And one thing for sure, the employee obviously an asset to the company. However, the company failed to acknowledge that. No matter how women voice out their opinion, it always be overreacting or you are too sensitive. That's all from me. Thank you.
Personally, I have never witnessed or experienced bias in the workplace. However, I think Pao had done the right thing. She filed a lawsuit against Cleaner Perkin with 4 claims. First, they treated Pao unfairly because of her gender. Second, they refused to promote her and terminate her employment. Third, they also refused to promote her because of the talk she had in 2011 and January 4, 2012 memo. They also failed to take all reasonable measure to prevent gender bias against her, and they terminated her employment also because of the talk and the memo. If I ever witness a gender bias in the workplace, the most ideal way to handle it instantly is to stand up against it. Does not matter if it's just a joke, gender inequality and bias need to be called out when they occur. Despite of how awkward it could be, it needs to be done so that people will be aware of it. Standing up to it will taught everyone on how to treat their colleagues and employees nicely.
At the end of the day, the workplace need to be fixed, not the employee. The company need to change their policy or law to provide a safe working environment that is not hostile to workers based on sex, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Women have a right to work in a safe, discrimination-free environment. If the company still refuses to make a change in their ethical business issue, therefore, in a long-term business may not be sustained in a long time, as it ruins the company reputation and put the corporation at a great risk. That's all from us. Thank you.
you.